Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and just preparing for a winter inspection. And what I plan to do is to add some sugar candy to the bees. And all I've done is I've taken raw cane sugar here. I've added a mixture of 3 cups of water with 1 tablespoon of vinegar, just to, I guess the vinegar can help prevent mold, and also some pests don't like vinegar, but the bees don't seem to mind it at all. So I'm just mixing this in here to create a pretty hard consistency. This one's probably still a little too watery, so I'm going to add more sugar to this, just so that it will maintain an indentation type of thing, and hopefully still leave some room for it to be able to absorb some moisture. I've got 3 hives, so I'm going to break this down into 3 candy bars basically, and I'm going to inspect the hives and probably replace the wood chip shavings if they're moist. I know one of them is. So you see the wood chips there that I'm using, pine shavings I guess. They're just what you use for your gerbil cages and that kind of stuff. So hopefully the bees are alive and well, and next part of the video we'll be out at the hives. Okay, so we're out here at the hives now, and we've seen some activity here. Lots of mortality, and I think unfortunately we have to come to expect that. Lots of dead bees on the lids, which I find interesting. I think they go up there to drink the water, and maybe it's their last drink before they die. And you can see the piles of dead bee parts. Now, someone mentioned that depending on whether it's entire carcasses or just parts of the bees, you can tell whether they're actually eating the dead bodies to get protein. And you do see a lot of dead bee parts. I saw a lot of bee heads out here before. Ew. And I can tell what these are. Sort of smatterings of bee parts all over the place. So I think that's normal. I think that you know, summer bees are not going to make it through the winter for the most part. At least a lot of them aren't. So we are seeing bees coming and going, which is great. It's about 4 degrees here. It's January 21st, I think. It's about 4 degrees Celsius, which is about 39 Fahrenheit. And I'm looking for, basically, looking for bee feces around the exits. You can see just little brown marks there. And that's not bad from as compared to what I've seen when bees are sick. That's not bad on that entrance. You see it a lot around the entrances because they go out to expel their waste, and just as they go to fly, they basically have, I guess, what amounts to an explosive diarrhea right at the entrance. You can see some there. That looks like bee poop. And we're just watching for dysentery and signs of nosema. But so far I don't see any of those signs. But now we're going to crack the hive open. So the plan here is to refeed the bees with that candy that I made, that sugar candy. We'll put 1 in each hive. And we'll also replace some, if not all, of the wood chip shavings that are in there. Hive number 1 here, they were all feeding nicely on the sugar from before, but hive number 1 here was very damp. The top was very damp, so I'll probably end up replacing all those wood chips, and hopefully they'll continue to be okay. Got my 2 lovely assistants here, Madeline and Erica, suited up just in case the bees are unhappy, and they're going to help me out. Okay, so the plan is going to be to open up the hive and remove the existing wood chips and just see how they're feeding, and if they're feeding, and replace the sugar. So here's hive number 1, and the top is pretty damp. There's a lot of moisture on the top here. You can literally see it glistening, right? So that's expected to happen because the bees are releasing that moisture. You're just hoping that the wood chips absorb it and or prevent it from falling back down on the bees. But these chips here are fairly damp. And the one challenge, yeah, they're pretty damp, so I will replace this entire pile of wood chips. And the problem with my setup, I see a lot of bee poop up here.
Ew. No one likes bee
So,
poop. Didn't know they could go to the bathroom.
hopefully it doesn't mean they're sick. The problem with my setup here is that it's going to be hard for me to replace the candy without getting rid of all of the wood chips. Now in this case they're all damp. And you know what, it's funny, they are damp from the top down. And that's a sign that moisture is going through the wood chips, hitting the top, the very top of the hive, cooling and condensing, and then starting to work its way back down into the hive. But the bottom of this, the bottom layer of the wood chips is fairly dry. Wow, and you can feel the warmth. Girls, come here and feel it. Take off your gloves and feel how warm this is. Yeah, the bees aren't here. Feel how warm it is right there.
Whoa.
Feel that?
Yeah.
That's because the bees, that's a good sign that the bees are alive and they're producing that warmth. You want to feel, Erica? It's okay, you don't have to. Okay, so I'll keep removing the wet stuff. Excuse me, honey. And
Honey,
replace it with dry stuff.
Excuse me, honey.
And then hopefully, the one thing I put right on top of the bees is an adult diaper here. And it's pretty dry. Yeah, it's very dry. See that?
A diaper.
A diaper.
Explain
right.
yourself.
Well, the diaper is in there to suck up a lot of the moisture. Okay, so here's where the bees could come out, girls, because I'm going to remove this part. And then the bees
I want to see bees.
are there. Just trying to figure out a way to remove this so that I don't drop much in the way of wood chips into the hive. So let's do this. It's not too bad.
Wait, there's a bunch of bees on the bottom.
It's okay.
Oh
Oh yeah. Okay.
cow.
Let's put those guys back in. Well, you know what? We'll sit those guys over here.
You're gonna
in
kill
the,
them?
No, we're not going to kill them, honey. We're going to sit them over here. And you see the sugar? Wow, look at how much of the sugar they've eaten, guys.
I don't want them to sting me.
It's okay, just take a look in. They won't sting you, and you're protected, right? So you can see this was a nice round patty, starting in the middle and working the way out. They've almost eaten all of it, so our timing here is really good to be able to feed these guys again. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll get a new cake, drop it in, then we'll put in some new sawdust, and then hopefully these bees continue to do really well. Okay, so here's the cake we're going to put in. Okay, now we're going to get the cover and sawdust back on. And top it off with more sawdust.
Some are still there, Dad.
That's okay. We'll put them in a sec. And now, I have to be careful with this part because we don't want to leave spaces for the bees to be able to get into this area, because if they get in, they often can't get back out. Okay, so these guys we're going to put back in at the front.
Wait, Dad.
Yes,
There's
dear?
some spider webs in there.
That's okay. Those are spiders that are either dead or hibernating, so we'll leave them.
Better.
Okay, so we'll set this aside right here. Put more chips in. And then we'll close up this hive so that we don't bother them anymore. But
What about that one?
just hoping that if this is indicative of how they're doing, that was a very good inspection. They have eaten the sugar. I timed it fairly well insofar as they were just at the very end of that sugar, and we just gave them a new round of sugar. So
They're like, sugar!
far so good. This hive is very healthy. The middle hive is the hive I'm most worried about because it was the weakest one. This one was moderately okay. Didn't produce any honey, but there are a lot of bees in there. So I'm just going to shut off the video now and we'll get back to it when we look at the second hive. Okay, so here's hive number 2, and this is one that concerns me. They had very few honey stores going in. I gave them honey, I gave them brood, did as much as I could do, and you can see these little blotches here, I'm sure, are bee poo. So they've probably just crawled out of the hive, gone onto the lid to relieve themselves, or maybe they've landed on the lid during their flights to relieve themselves. But it's not too much. It's not as much as I've seen in other videos, so I don't think we're dealing with nosema type of situation, but you never know. So again, hoping to see here that they're alive, first off. And second off, that moisture is not too bad a situation in this hive. We'll be ready to replace the wood chips as needed. Again, very damp, a very damp lid. Honey, not in the front, sweetie. Very damp lid, which is not necessarily a bad thing because I don't think there's any way of avoiding having condensation on the lid. But then preventing it from falling back down to the bees, that's where this stuff really comes in. And I can see it's pretty damp on the top, but if it's like the other hive, then the further we go down, the drier it becomes. And this is pretty dry. It's not bad at all. It's not as damp as the other one. Just kind of work around the stuff that is damp and pull it out. And then we'll pull the whole thing out and check on the diaper in here. The diaper is bone dry here. Bone dry, and you can see the bees in there. Guys, you want to see the bees in here?
Yes, Daddy, I think he pooped on me.
It can happen. See the bees right there? They can't get at you yet until I lift this off. Oh. See how they're eating the sugar?
Yep.
In there?
Let me see.
Look.
Why do they want to eat sugar?
Because sugar is like extra food for them.
They're basically
They have
like
honey.
Kids.
They
always eat sugar. They're like, sugar!
They're like kids, always eating sugar. Good point. I should have brought a candy bar for them.
Yeah.
So I'm just pulling out the stuff that is very obviously damp.
I wish I was a bee. I could get some sugar.
And then we'll replace it with stuff that is very nicely dry. Yeah, the other hive was much more damp than this one, and it's always been that way for some reason, right from the beginning of the winter. Don't know why. Don't know how. I mean, there's many more bees in that hive, but there's more bees even in this hive over here, and it's not as damp either. So getting to the point now where everything feels dry, so I'm going to lift off the screen and place it down on the lid there, because the screen comes up with a lot of bees in it. So I want to try and displace as few bees as possible. The bees are flying today, which is great news. Again, I just want to try and drop as few wood shavings on them as possible. Look at that clump of bees right there. Look at that. Oh, no, I'm dropping.
Dad, do you want me to hold it?
No, I'm just going to put it right down in the box here. Okay. Put it on the edge there so that we know they don't get squished. And there you see how much the sugar they've eaten here?
Nope.
So this hive has not eaten as much sugar as the other hive, and it could be just a product of the fact that there's fewer bees in this hive. But this hive was needing the sugar stores more than the other ones. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
Ew, are you kidding me? Stop pooping on me! Now you know what I feel.
Okay. Oh, there's a sting.
Are you kidding me? You just did 3. Oops, sorry. Sorry, Mom. Now you know what it feels. You got 1, I got 3.
We'll get these guys covered up again. The bees that came out were not happy, and they were in a stinging mood, so I took one sting to the hand.
Oh no! You okay, Dad?
Yep. Not a big surprise.
Nice call with the soup.
Yeah.
Ew. I literally saw it going on me.
So we'll just top this off with chips, and these bees are doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Dad, look, it pooped on me. So cute. Oh my god, that's so weird. Look, it pooped on me. That's cute.
Okay, we'll do hive number 3 in a second, and then we're done.
Dad, can I show you the one that pooped?
Okay, so on the last hive here, and this is the strongest hive that I've got, or it was going into the winter. And so far, very positive signs in both of the weaker hives. So I'm hoping this one will be doing just as well. Again, you can see the bee poops all over the place, and I guess if you're going to poop in the winter, you don't want to travel very far, so that's why they're doing it there. So not too much moisture on the hive, on the lid, lots of moisture here. And so we'll get all the moist stuff out.
I could see it all the moist.
Yeah, you can see what's wet, right, hon?
Yeah. Ah! Did it sting you? Oh god, there's a bee up my suit. Don't kill it. You sure?
No, you got your jacket on, you got your coat on, honey. So you're fine.
It's weird, just felt sting on my leg.
So I've gotten one sting so far for my troubles, which...
Maybe it didn't because it doesn't, it's just this little like tiny little sting. It probably, nothing stung me, but it felt like something just crawled up my coat. And I felt like it just got a sting, and I swear if I got a sting.
When the bees get going, you often feel that they're crawling all over you, even though they're
Look,
not.
got squished.
Okay, watch out guys, I'm going to lift this one up.
Not as
Oh, this one's all torn to bits. Oh, that's not good.
That's not good.
This mesh is all torn up, and it's going to be a real problem getting it out. Okay. And it's a shame because the bees have eaten a lot of sugar on this one. So let's see how I'm going to do this. So note for self for next time, you need a much better plan for the screen. So this screen was in pieces, and that's why it's all messed up like that. So one piece stayed behind. Okay, I see what's going on now. So let's make sure I don't trap many bees. You can see they've actually eaten almost all the sugar on this hive as well. So
You must be hungry.
yeah, the two stronger hives basically ate practically all the sugar that I gave them, which is good. So I'm going to put this on the side, try not to squish many bees with it. And just keep it close to them. And then we will get the rest of the mesh trapped bees back.
You're 2 inches about to be stinged, Dad.
Beekeeper's life involves getting stung.
If you poo on me, I'm going to murder you.
Talk nicely to the bees. Don't talk angry to the bees or they'll get angry.
Poop on her. Come on. Yes, they pooped on her. Oh my god, they're really letting it
Girls, stop your yelling, please.
They're letting it rip.
Welcome to Beekeeping with Kids, guys.
Oh my god, they're really rip.
It can be fun.
Okay, enough.
Or it could be like
that's
this.
enough. My glove. You poop on my glove, don't.
Really letting it rip.
Dad, wait.
Not on this side, on the front, honey.
There it goes.
Oh my god, let's see that.
Okay, so we'll just fill this back up with wood chips.
Pattern.
A bit of screen here.
Let it
So
rip.
here's my fatal flaw with this hive is that it's not one piece of screen, it's a whole bunch of separate pieces. And I never really accounted for what would happen if and when I need to replace the sugar candy. So there you go, there's something I've learned for next time. Don't cheap out on the screening.
Don't get mad at bees.
Don't get mad at bees.
Because then it pooped
They're
all
just
over
being
Erica.
bees. And don't ever bring your kids out either, because they're a pain in the butt. No, so we'll fill this up with wood chips, and we're done. 3 hives that are very much alive and healthy
And poop of this.
into what is now late January. So this is the first time my bees have even made it into winter, never mind through winter. So
9 poops it did.
it's a very good sign, and I'm very happy, and it bodes well for
Dad,
them
bee. Daddy,
making it
it's on your hoodie.
into the rest of the
Oh, there it is.
making it through the rest of the winter. So thanks for joining me at 40 Honeybee.
Daddy, why are you
And,
talking to the camera?
Wear a condom. That's all I can say.
Why are you talking to the camera?